She tisked and shook her head. But then something caught her eye, and she stopped. Immediately beneath the branch that had broken, a very small shoot of green angled from the main stalk. That was odd. She lowered her head for a closer look. The shoot grew out a mere centimeter, almost like a stalk of grass. She touched it gently, afraid to break it. And as she did, she saw the tiny split in the bark along the base of that shoot. She caught her breath. Strange. It looked like a small graft. But she hadn't grafted anything into the plant, had she? No, of course not. She remembered every step of care she'd given this plant over the last 5 years, and none of them included a graft. It looked like someone had slit the base of the rosebush open and grafted in this green shoot. And it didn't look like a rose graft either. The stalk was a lighter green. So then maybe it wasn't a graft. Maybe it was a parasite of some kind. Ivana let her breath out slowly and touched it again. It was already healed at the insertion point. She straightened and walked to the round table, where a white porcelain cup still steamed with tea. She lifted it to her lips. The rich aroma of spice warmed her nostrils, and she paused, staring through the wisps of steam. From this distance of 10 feet, Nadia's rosebush looked like Moses's burning bush, but consumed by the flame and burned black. Dead branches reached up from the soil like claws from a grave. Dead. Except for that one tiny shoot of green at its base. It was very strange indeed. Ivana lowered herself into the old wood spindle chair beside the table, still looking over the teacup to the rosebush. She sat here every morning, humming and sipping her tea and whispering her words to the Father. But today, the sight before her was turning things on their heads. She lowered the cup without drinking. "Father, what are you doing here?" she said softly. Not that he was necessarily doing anything. Rose bushes died, after all. Perhaps with less encouragement than other plants, but an air of consequence had settled on Ivana, and she couldn't ignore it. Across the beds of flourishing flowers before her sat this one dead bush, an ugly black scar on a landscape of bright color. But then from the blackened stalk, that impossible graft. "What are you saying, Father?" She did not hear his answer, but that didn't mean he wasn't talking. He could be yelling for all she knew. Here on earth it might come through as a distant whisper, easily mistaken for the sound of a gentle breeze. Actually, the greenhouse was dead silent. She more felt something, and it could just as easily have been a draft that tickled her hair, or a finger of emotion from the past, as the voice of God. Still the scene before her began to massage her heart with fingers of meaning. She just didn't know what that meaning was yet. Ivana hummed, and a blanket of peace settled over her. She whispered, "Lover of my soul, I worship you. I kiss your feet. Don't ever let me forget." Her words echoed softly through the quiet greenhouse, and she smiled. The Creator was a mischievous one, she often thought. At least playful and easily delighted. And he was up to something, wasn't he? A splash of red at her elbow caught her eye. It was her copy of the book, The Dance of the Dead. Its surreal cover showed a man's face wide open with laughter, tears leaking down his cheek. Still smiling, Ivana set down her teacup and lifted the book from the table. She ran a hand over the tattered cover. She'd read it 100 times, of course, but it never lost its edge. Its pages oozed with love and laughter and the heart of the Creator. She opened the book and brushed through a few dozen dog-eared pages. He had written a masterpiece, and in some ways it was as much God's work.